So now you know that in your treatments it must become clear to you that the nature of your demonstration is not person, place, or thing, but that the nature of the demonstration is God, the realization of Christ. All right. In part of this work on one of these treatment tapes, it was brought out that treatment and living the truth, that is, knowing the truth and living the truth, cannot be separated from each other. You can't live one kind of a life and declare the truth of another kind of life and bring them together. In other words, your treatment can't make a liar of you, or rather, your method of living can't make a liar out of your treatment. There must be a consistency in order to arrive at that state of consciousness. Now, I'll illustrate that in this. The note says here, there is no effective treatment for supply. And there isn't. There's no such thing as a metaphysical treatment that ever can be effective for supply, because supply isn't demonstrated through a treatment. Supply is demonstrated through a way of life. Now, it is possible at times to have an occasional, what is called demonstration of supply through knowing the truth and some mental abracadabra. But actually, no one is going to demonstrate supply through treatment. Supply can only be demonstrated through a way of life, through a way of living. Now, you know this to be true already, that the spiritual life is the very opposite of material life. That material life is the very opposite of spiritual life. For instance, material life is 80 years and 10. But spiritual life is eternal and immortal. And the very moment you come into the awareness of spiritual life, you never can die. It's another impossibility. Even if you want to step out of this world, you'll step out, but not through dying, just through walking away. I can lay down my life, I can pick it up, says the Master. Certainly, after you've understood spiritual living, spiritual life, there's no more dying. But anything material must come to an end. There is no such thing as eternality for material form. All right? You will find as you study, as you live, that everything of a material nature is reversed in spiritual teaching and in spiritual living. And so it is with supply. In material living, supply is getting, but not in spiritual living. In spiritual living, the demonstration of supply is giving. There's no place where you find Jesus ever received anything. At no point in his ministry did he ever seek anything for himself, and so far as we know, he didn't get anything for himself. His entire ministry was providing for those who are not aware of their true identity. And yet he was never in lack or want. So it is. You cannot imagine Moses being in want either, who could bring food for a multitude of people, and drink, and safety, and security. And yet Moses did not demonstrate, get, achieve, accumulate. Supply is demonstrated only in proportion as we understand that God is our infinite individual being, and therefore we are infinite, and therefore our supply is infinite, and there's never any use to get any. The only use is to make avenues for giving, bestowing, sharing, distributing. That doesn't mean to throw it away. That doesn't mean to be wanton or wasteful. Please don't understand anything like that. It is intelligent, kind, and loving to be careful and have wisdom in the distribution of what is given to us. But the point I'm making is that you do not spiritually demonstrate supply through any manner that's ever been known of getting. There is no way to demonstrate supply through getting, because the infinity of supply is at the center of your being, and no more can be added to you. Nothing can be added to you, and nothing can be taken from you. It is a continuous outpouring of the infinity of God. It is as if Niagara Falls should fear running dry. Oh, of course it would run dry too if Niagara Falls were Niagara Falls. But fortunately there is a Lake Erie behind Niagara Falls, and it is the waters of Lake Erie that constitute Niagara Falls. And so Niagara Falls is never going to run dry. So it is with us. We are never going to lack, since whatever it is we have isn't ours, and it doesn't have its source in us. Whatever we have is this great Lake Erie behind us, the infinite ocean of God. And it is not ours, it is pouring through us. It is just as if I would try to save up these words of wisdom tonight and put them in a vault, as if they belong to me. They don't. I didn't know them before I sat down. They flow, they come, and they're not mine. They are merely flowing through. And by letting them flow through, the next time we sit down, there'll be another flow there. And so it is with every phase of our existence. If we let love flow through us, if we let forgiveness flow through us, if we let peace, harmony, joy flow through us, they flow in never-ending session. But it doesn't stop with money, because money is no more material than life, truth, and love. It just appears to us in our finite sense as if it were material, but it isn't. It's spiritual. Now, any treatment intended to get something cannot succeed, because there is no such spiritual demonstration in all of God's storehouse. So how could he fulfill it? God can't give us anything. God can't send us anything. God can't bestow anything. God is a law of fulfillment, forever flowing free. And that's all there is to it. And our awareness of that stops us from trying to demonstrate, all of which, if we could succeed in it, would just dam us up. No. Now, we don't want to get any more than Niagara Falls wants to get water. Niagara Falls just wants to let water flow. And heaven help Niagara Falls if it ever found a way to stop it from flowing or stored it up. Do you see that? So it is with us. In the spiritual realm, you cannot demonstrate supply. You can demonstrate the realization of Christ as your supply, and then let Christ flow, and it will flow in money or any other form necessary to your experience. It will flow in the form of transportation. It will flow in the form of railroad tickets, airplane tickets, steamboat tickets. It will flow in any form necessary, but the point is, don't try to treat for supply. If you have to treat for supply, that is, if you have to know the truth, ask God how to let it flow from you, through you. Open out ways for it to flow. Now, you've all heard this, and it's true. In the old metaphysical days, they used to teach that the moment your supply seemed to slacken off, grow less, go out and spend twice as much the next day. Buy a nicer hat than you can afford, or a new dress that you can't afford. Do something to break the spell of mesmerism that talks about lack. And many a person has done just that thing, opened out a way, Browning says, for the imprisoned splendor to escape, and then found their supply began to fall. And so the question is, could the phrase yesterday's manna be applied to seldom worn clothes hanging in one's closet and or old ideas and teachings? Of course it can. Of course it can. There isn't any question but what we dam up our supply by holding on to things that we have outgrown, outworn, things of which we have no use and of which we're afraid to let loose, whether it's in the form of old religious ideas or old clothes hanging in the closet. It's all the same thing. You can't add new wine to old bottles, so the best thing to do is get into that closet and get all those old bottles out and let them go. Now, Don Blaney has a poem on that in Carmel, isn't it?
Yes.
Sure it is. Old clothes. The minute we have old clothes, the minute we have unused faculties, facilities, properties that we are storing up, we are acting also to dam up. Now, supply cannot be demonstrated. Only the realization of God can be demonstrated, and then let the supply flow. You all know the story, I'm sure, of Mr. Letourneau, the inventor and the designer of this great earth-moving machinery, this tremendous machinery, who in his early years was very successful, but became a bankrupt. And while his business was being wound up, he began to ask himself why. He knew that he was a very bright man. He knew that. He knew he was one of the brightest engineers and mechanics in the world. He was sure of that. He knew he was a good businessman. He knew all the fine things about himself, but he didn't know why he went bankrupt. And so he pondered and pondered and pondered, and in a meditation one day he was told that he had left God out of his business. That was it. He had everything but one thing needful. And so he decided that when he got back in business, he would take God into partnership. Well, he began by setting aside 10% of his earnings to give away to what he called works of God. And they met his purpose, orphan asylums and free Bibles and so forth and so on. But you know, that man kept increasing that giving until now he gives 80% of his earnings to these charitable and religious works, and he keeps 20%. And in 1952, the 20% was $3 million. So he's getting along all right. Now then, over and over and over, people have discovered that the very moment they took God into partnership, their troubles passed away. And that is true not only with supply, true with health, true with human relationships, because it brings that fourth dimension, that lost element into being, that sleeping Christ within our being. Now, let's see. Yes. This is speaking on the same subject of we must live this in order for our treatments to be effective, because we can't give lip service to one thing and live something else. All right? What does the Master say about spiritual living? Well, he tells us, first of all, the need for prayer. And then he tells us what prayer is. Pray for your enemies. Pray for those that hate you. Pray for those that despitefully use you. Pray for those that persecute you. And then he talks about forgiveness. 70 times 7. Now, I know that ordinarily speaking, we pay no attention to that part of the Bible at all. We do lots of praying for our friends and relatives, and yet he says, it profiteth you nothing to pray for your friends and relatives. Even the nations of the world, the scribes and the Pharisees, do that, and it profiteth them nothing. You must pray for your enemies. Well, now, you cannot begin knowing the truth about God and spiritual creation and still hold back here concepts of enemies, concepts of people you hate, concepts of races and religions and colors that you don't like or don't trust. You can't do that. You're living a lie but paying lip service to a truth, and the two won't go. If your treatment doesn't lead you to live the life to where you can pray for your enemies, where you can pray and where you can forgive and where you can overcome, it's all wrong and it will not work out. So treatment must also lead to a living of the life. Now, There's no use saying to a person, you must be grateful, because if they emptied their pocketbook or their treasury and gave it to you, it would be no sign they were grateful. It might be a sign they were being obedient and hoped to gain a benefit from it. But you can see that if gratitude isn't something that's welling up within you, that you're not approaching the spiritual life that is the proper ground for spiritual demonstration. Another part of the Bible we pay little or no attention to is the Master's teaching on the subject of the ground, the fertile ground, the barren ground, the rocky ground. Oh, but that's a very important teaching. If we bury spiritual truth in our treatment in the barren ground of our ingratitude, of our hate, envy, jealousy, malice, distrust, what chance has the seed of the Word to sprout and to grow? If we plant the word of truth, the correct letter of truth, in the barrenness of our lives, of our human lives, how are we ever going to expect it to grow? And that's why some people respond to spiritual treatment more quickly than others. They have a more natural spiritual ground to begin with. Now, there are many people, remember, who are very grateful for things that touch them on the material level of life. They are very grateful for material good that comes to them. They are grateful for material benefits. They are grateful for material supply. They're grateful for, but they know nothing about gratitude for the intangibles like friendship, cooperation, mutual good, sharing. They know nothing about gratitude for spiritual devotions. Well, I'll give you an illustration here. This was at a truth center. The lady went up to, I was standing at the book table, and a lady went up to the saleswoman and wanted to know the price of this book, and it was $7.50. Oh, she said, isn't that terribly expensive? I wouldn't want to pay that. No book could be worth that. Oh, he said, maybe he charges for what's in it rather than for the paper and the cover. And I said, no, excuse me, I'll tell you the truth. I'm only charging for the paper that's in the book and the cover and the discount to the center and sales expense and so forth. I'm not charging a penny for what's in it. I've never yet received $1 from any book that I've written except a few pennies royalties on some of those that are published by a publisher. Well, I don't understand that. Well, I'll tell you. It took me 29 years before I got to the place where I could write that book, and I wouldn't know how to charge for those 29 years. Everything you're getting in that book, you're getting free. It cost me 29 years. It cost you $7.50. Well, she couldn't quite see that. Now, she could have seen it in a leather binding. Now, $7.50 would have been cheap for that book in a leather binding. She could appreciate a material sense of values, but not the spiritual intangible of just 29 years of trying to arrive at a place where you could learn enough to put into a book like that. Well, that's so it is with us. Very often, we don't know it, but we do appreciate the things that are tangible to our sense. We know how to value those and even to be grateful for them, but we do not know how to value an intangible. We don't know how to value the life of a person who devotes themselves to a cause. Oh, yes, you've heard it as well as I have. $2 is too much for a treatment, and the same as in materia medica. This doctor charges $5, let's go to one who charges $2. They forget what went into that difference. And so, I bring that up because it's important. Unless we have or can develop a sense of value in the intangible, we are not yet spiritually developed, nor are we the soil in which spiritual truth can bear rich fruitage. We must come to the place where our appreciation of love, of friendship, of truth, of cooperation, of kindliness, of benevolence, of all these so-called intangibles means more to us than the value that we see in a leather-covered book or the value that we see in a diamond or a house or a farm. Now, that is one aspect of making a treatment productive. A treatment cannot be productive if it is a declaration of a spiritual truth while living entirely in the physical values of life. In other words, the person who feels that their health is more valuable to them, their bodily health is more valuable to them than a spiritual flash of God, does not yet rightly discern. But when a person can say, no, I want this flash of God regardless of what it may do to my health, then they are beginning to appreciate the love of God, and unto them all these things are added. You see, health and supply are not material, they're spiritual. And until we learn the deep appreciation for the spiritual, we won't even know prosperity in health or supply on the material. Now, watch the nature of what you call demonstration. Our physical sense of life is not the real life. And our attention being on it and our desire for demonstration being in that realm leads to failure. And the example that came to me recently, was this. Supposing Maurice Evans were playing Hamlet tonight, and he went to a doctor to have Hamlet treated. I don't know what for, insanity maybe, bad temper. You see the ridiculousness of it, because actually Hamlet is not a reality. Hamlet is a masquerade, a costume, an outer appearance. Evans is the man. Now, to bring harmony out into Evans, he has to forget his costume of Hamlet, and he has to go back into his Evanshood and forget his Hamlethood. Then he can bring out harmony and maybe even be a better Hamlet. But first he has to fix up Evans and leave Hamlet alone. Our material or physical sense of existence is our masquerade. It's the shadow of our real being. And you can no more patch it up than you can patch up the shadow on a wall. If we want the shadow to be better, we better make ourselves better first, and then we'll cast a better shadow. Now, the demonstration of harmony in our Hamlet life, our outer life, is dependent on the degree of harmony that we bring in our Christ life. So, we're back again with the nature of the demonstration is not to improve the outer picture, but to awaken us inside to our true identity, and then the outer picture begins to conform to it. Do you see that? If we give ourselves the right treatments, if we use treatment intelligently, we will lift ourselves to a place of consciousness where our inner being will open, unfold, and reveal itself in terms of outer harmonies. In practicing treatment, remember the two parts. The first part is consciously knowing the truth about God, about Christ, the Son of God, your real identity, and the spiritual universe. Treatment is knowing the truth about God as one. The one being, the one life, the one law, the one soul, the one mind, the one activity of all that is. It is knowing the truth about everything that you possibly can know of a spiritual nature. And then, coming to the end of the knowing of the truth, the period of listening, that which we call prayer or communion, in which we, having done all, known all, stand or sit until the assurance comes, and then going on about our business. Now, once we have left the treatment and the prayer, don't go back to it again. Don't mull it over. Don't start to look for results. Drop it. Get up and get busy with something. If you have nothing else to do, get out to a movie or do something that will make you forget your treatment and let the truth. You see, you have known the truth. Now you must let the truth make you free. And you'll only do that now by dropping it from your thought. It may be that tonight or tomorrow morning you may have to give another treatment. But when you do, make it a clean-cut one, and then leave it alone. Once you've received the assurance, leave it alone. Don't keep thinking of the problem, and don't keep thinking of the truth. Leave it alone, and every time it tries to come back into your mind, now this is one of the most important parts of it, every time it tries to come back into your mind, turn on it. Get thee behind me, Satan. I refuse to think of you. I refuse to think of anything to do with you. And keep it out there, and give this truth a chance to operate and to produce. Then it may be 6, 8, 10, 12, 20 hours later, you may feel the need, whether it's for yourself or another, of giving another treatment. It may not be a repetition of the last treatment. It may be a completely different treatment. But once you've given it, refuse to let the problem come back into your thought. Keep it out. And then you'll find that having known the truth, having realized and felt the presence of God, the truth will make you free. Now, the function of treatment and prayer is not to get rid of something, not to overcome something, and therefore you must not indulge the old metaphysical practice of denying it, or saying, this is no part of God, so it can't be a part of me. Don't deny, don't get rid of, don't try to overcome, but rather go to the other extreme and acknowledge that since God made all that was made, probably God made this too, accept everything as of God. Unless you see God in sinner as well as saint, you will not make the demonstration. Unless you see God in the midst of sickness as well as in the midst of health, you will not make the demonstration. You cannot acknowledge that there is a presence and a power apart from God and then come into spiritual harmony. You can't do it. You cannot acknowledge that you have something to get rid of or something to overcome any more than in supply you can acknowledge that you have something to get. You must start from the basis that God is your individual being, and therefore there is nothing present, there is nothing that has power, there is nothing within you or without you except God and His Christ. God and His Christ activity. Affirm, yes, but never deny. Never set up a selfhood or a condition apart from God and set out to get rid of it. Back in the old days of the mainland, in the settling days, in the Middle West, they used to grind wheat. They had a flat stone on the ground, fastened into the ground. On top of it, another flat stone, and to the top flat stone was hitched a donkey or jackass. And that jackass went round and round pulling this top stone, and the top stone ground the wheat between the two stones. The only trick was that they couldn't always make the jackass go round and round. And so they found a way to make them. They took a stick and fastened it out here 18 inches and hung from it a bag of oats. Now you just know that that jackass went round and round and round because he was going to catch up to that bag of oats. Of course, he didn't until 8 hours had gone by and they took that bag down and gave it to him. Always he was 18 inches behind his demonstration. We are always as far behind our demonstration as our expectancy of getting good. That's a law. You are always as far behind your demonstration as you're expecting. If you think that 5 minutes after this treatment you're going to be better, you've set up 5 minutes between you and it, and that 5 minutes is going to remain. You'll always be 5 minutes away from it. If you think, now, the minute this telegram reaches my practitioner, you have set up that space and that time between you and your demonstration. Every treatment, every prayer must be based on the words omnipresence. All that the Father hath is mine. The place whereon I stand is holy ground. Do you see that? That's what you've got to watch in your treatment. The minute you expect something to come to you, even if you expect it to come 5 minutes from now, you've set up 5 minutes between you and it, and you will not break down that 5 minutes. That's going to be an eternal one. The moment you think that good is going to come to you after a treatment, or after you have become more loving or more generous or more kind, you have put that much time and space between you and your demonstration. Now, there is only one way that you can know that your treatment is effective, and that is if your treatment sets up within you omnipresence, omnipotence, oneness, here and now already established, so that the purpose of treatment and the purpose of prayer is coming into the realization or awareness of that which already is. Do you follow that? That is most important, because usually we are seeking either to demonstrate supply, which means it's absent but we're going to get it, or we're going to demonstrate health, which means it's absent and we're going to get it. We're going to demonstrate companionship, or we're going to demonstrate home. But you never will. Never, never, never. You've set up that 18 inches between you and it. But when you seek to demonstrate the conscious realization of God, you find all these things included in that demonstration of God. Now, that's what treatment is, and that's what prayer is. Now, however, I come to the most important part of the subject of treatment. And the reason that this is so important is that it indicates your own state of consciousness. And after all, it is your state of consciousness that does the healing work, not merely what you declare or think in a treatment. None of the metaphysical movements of today understand this next point. For if they did, they would do the same spiritual healing works that always have been possible to those who really knew the truth. There are some practitioners, and you find these mostly in the Christian Science movement, who really know this secret, and they are the ones who are outstanding in their healing work, in their reputation, in their own demonstration of harmony. And these few have caught this glimpse, even as I have caught it. And this that I'm about to tell you is as responsible for whatever is being accomplished in the healing work in the infinite way as any other point, because it is this on which the consciousness of truth is founded. You understand, particularly since you have studied the booklet Love and Gratitude, that you do not receive good from a person, that the only good there is from the Father in heaven, regardless of who the person may be, who at the moment is the avenue or instrument of bringing that good to you. Remember this. Why callest thou me good? There is but one good, the Father in heaven. And so, as you impersonalize your sense of good to the point where you do not expect good to come from person, even though you know that it will come through person as long as is possible, your good will continue to unfold to you. Now remember, person isn't even necessary as an avenue or instrument. Gold can appear in the fish's mouth. Loaves and fishes can be multiplied. Dollar bills can be multiplied. Ravens can come bringing you food. It isn't absolutely essential that our good come in ordinary human ways, but the chances are that as long as we are in a regular, normal human society, that our good will unfold through employment, through husband or wife or child or parent, through the normal, everyday avenues and instruments of supply. But you will know that your good is coming to you, regardless of appearances, from the Father within you. You will always know that whatever good comes into your experience is really the good that you have sent forth, coming back to you. You see, as long as you permit yourself to be an instrument of good, through which the Father can send forth its good to the world, just so long will your good return to you. Your good, then, is the direct gift from the Father of lights, the Father within you. And as you permit good to flow out from you, that good will return to you through persons or conditions, wherever possible, and where not, direct through the grace of God. Now, the point that I'm about to make to you is this. Evil does not come from persons, and therefore there is no use to treat persons. On the contrary, to treat persons is to submit yourself to being fooled by a decoy. If you can be tempted into treating a person or a disease or a condition, you are being tempted by a decoy. You see, as error continues to appear as some person, as some condition, and you meet it head on, arguing against it, denying it, treating it, you are the blind leading the blind. Certainly, a patient or student will call up and say, I am sick, I am unemployed, I am poor, I am sinful. And if you can be tempted into giving a treatment to that person or that condition, you are not in the realm of a spiritual healer, and you never will be successful. You see, evil is as impersonal as good. And therefore, you must never, under any consideration, treat a person, a disease, or a condition. If you can be tempted, then you see you have accepted the claim. If you can be tempted to treat a person or a condition or a disease, you have succumbed to temptation. You have accepted an appearance. Now then, regardless of the name or nature of the claim, regardless of the appearance, regardless of the person involved, watch yourself. Understand instantly that this is a claim of hypnotism, of impersonal error, trying to personalize itself, trying to get you to accept it as a person or condition. And then your healing work will be as near instantaneous as it is possible to get. Even though it isn't instantaneously responded to by your patient, it will be instantaneously met, and it will ultimately be realized by your patient. You see, there are many reasons which you will only learn through constant study and practice, why some people do not instantly respond even when you have the answering signal of healing within you. Always remember this, that healing is not the changing of a physical condition, it's the changing of a state of consciousness. And your patient or student does not always instantly yield to a change of consciousness. They may be perfectly willing to give up a sore, a pain, a lack, but unwilling to yield the state of consciousness that is appearing as such a condition. You see, as ye sow, so shall ye reap. You can't get away from that, not even for your patients. And if they insist on clinging to materialism, if they persist in living a lie, they cannot have a truthful outer expression. Now, someone presents to you a claim, tells you of some sin, some sickness, some false desire, some discord or inharmony, and instantly the human mind jumps to personalize it. But the Christ mind holds no one in condemnation to either sin or disease. Neither do I condemn you. Who did sin? What did hinder you? Pick up your bed and walk. You see, the Christ mind does not acknowledge a condition to be overcome. The Christ mind does not acknowledge a person to be healed, reformed, employed, enriched. The Christ mind understands that all good is an emanation of God, and is grateful for whoever may be an instrument or avenue. But the Christ mind also knows that all evil is a claim of a selfhood apart from God. It knows, the Christ mind knows, that all evil is a hypnotic suggestion that would try to get you to believe there is a sick or sinning person. The Christ mind looks right through the appearance of person and beholds the Christ of God at the center of being. Now, do you see that all of these people who are taking the name of somebody into their treatment, or the name of a condition and denying it, are bringing themselves right down to the level of the claim itself, and they are the blind leading the blind? Do you not see that the moment you look for a cause for a specific evil, you are coming right down to the level of the claim itself, acknowledging there is one, seeking a cause, and then trying to get rid of it, and at the same time declaring, oh, it's an illusion. Now, what is the cause of an illusion? Well, how can an illusion have a cause when an illusion is nothing itself but an appearance, a mental image, having no substance, no law, no cause? So all of this treatment that you have read about in the metaphysical world that tries to tell you that because you have been sore at somebody all day, you will have a sore tomorrow, or because you do not like your mother-in-law and you resent her, that you're going to get rheumatism, or because you are jealous of your husband or your wife, that you may get cancer, please, please, that is no part of a spiritual ministry. A spiritual ministry does not accept a person as a sinner or as diseased, whether they're young or whether they're old. And here is the reason, too, why the Master could raise up Peter's mother-in-law, who undoubtedly was a lady of advanced years. The world believes that old age is a natural condition, and it isn't. Since God is the creative principle of our being, God created all of us, and He created all of us for all time. So if God created us in our youth and maintains us and sustains us in our youth, do you think there is ever a period when God leaves us and forsakes us and lets us run down? Oh, no. The last 50 years of our life are as important to God as the first 50 years, and as a matter of fact, the second 50 years should be much more fruitful, harmonious, and happy than the first, because on the lessons we have learned on the first, we have the opportunity to improve the second. But so far as God is concerned, our life is one whole. W-H-O-L-E. One whole, complete embodiment. And the latter half of our life is just as important to God as the first half. God is just as omnipresent in the latter part of our experience as in the first. Therefore, the body should be as vigorous, vital, harmonious, and whole in the second 50 years as in the first. You ask, why is it then that some of our functions cease after a certain period? Well, that is for the same reason that they do not begin until a certain period, such as the generative organs. They do not begin to function in a person the first 12 or 13 or 14 years because nature has no purpose for them, no function for them during that period. And so they are very apt to stop functioning in the 50s or in the 60s. Why? Not because of old age, because nature has no further use for them after that period. They have served their purpose in our experience during the years when they were to be a part of our experience. But they weren't there before we needed them, before we were intended to use them, and naturally they're not going to be there after that particular function of our experience is past. And so, do not accept the fact that certain of our organs and functions do not operate the same in the latter half of our experience as the first. Do not attribute that to old age. Attribute that to the fact that the divine mind gives us all that we need all of the time, but does not permit us to have that which is of no use to us when there is no longer use for it. Now, I ask you to see that your life is one complete, perfect whole, a complete, perfect embodiment of good, and to be as determined that the last 50 years of your experience on earth shall be as joyous, as healthful, as vital, as alive as the first 50. Then, when you are confronted with an appearance of someone 60, 70, 80 years of age who is ill, you will not accept the fact that it is time for them to pass on, or it is natural for them to be old, and you will instantly reject the appearance of a person of any age and look through them to the Christ. Their Christ identity is just as young and vital at 1,000 years of age as at 21. But if you are looking at the mortal concept of man, you are certainly not a spiritual healer. Now again, I will repeat this. If you can be made to treat a person, a disease, a condition, you are being hypnotized to accepting appearances, to judging by appearances, and thereby you have lost your spiritual way. But if, when you see or hear a claim of error, you can, with inner vision, look through it to the Christ of being, you will then understand that evil, error, sin, disease never is a person, never is involved in a person, never must be treated as a person, but as a universal claim of a selfhood apart from God, a universal sense of personalized evil, and you will dismiss it. Then you will have quick healings. When you learn to attribute all good to the Christ, not to person, and all evil to an impersonal sense of error, then you will be a fine practitioner. Then will the healing works come through you. Healing works can only come through a state of consciousness that knows that all good is of God and that all evil is an impersonal sense of a selfhood or condition or activity or substance apart from God. The only healing consciousness is one that never holds a person in bondage to a claim of sin, disease, lack, or unemployment, or homelessness, but instantly realizes this has nothing to do with person. This is an impersonal claim of two powers or two presences on earth, and quickly dismissing it, the treatment will be short. Now, if you do not quickly dismiss it, that is when you have a long treatment, and you have to go all around the Robin Hood's barn and get back again to lift yourself to a state of consciousness that ultimately can come where it should have been in the first place, where you didn't accept a person, but rather you said, what did hinder you? Or, neither hath this man sinned. Do you see? Now, the impersonalization of good and the impersonalization of evil is the secret of spiritual healing work. There is no mental abracadabra to it. It is an instantaneous recognition of the truth that the only good is God. So don't get so happy if the fever goes down 1 or 2 degrees, because you had the right to be thinking of fevers or concerned with them, whether they're up or down. And even a normal temperature is no sign of spirituality. That is not your concern as a spiritual healer. If there is such a thing as normalcy, it's of God. Then it's always present. And so it is. Never concern yourself with evil. Do not personalize it. Do not take names into your treatment, not the name of person, not the name of disease. But get behind the appearance. Do not judge after appearances, judge righteous judgment. What is the appearance? Here is a sick man or a sinning man. Well, don't judge by that appearance. Then what do you find? There is no sick man and there is no sinning man. All there is Christ, the Son of God, which you will never see with your eyes or hear with your ears, but you will see with your inner eye, your spiritual vision, and you will hear with that inner ear, the ear that is attuned to the still small voice. Now, you have been through a good deal of instruction on the subject of infinite way treatment. And those of you who are here listening to me can, of course, ask questions. But those of you who are hearing this tape recording must come to a definite understanding of the principles involved. And so I understand that you will need to study these tapes many, many, many times in order to comprehend these principles. But then, should questions arise in your thought, if you still are puzzled about any of the points I have brought up, if you are not having success in your healing work, and if you have been faithful in your study, please feel free to write to me. I am not giving these lessons or making these recordings just for the sake of putting them out for people to hear. I am putting them out so that the principles enunciated here can be studied and learned and practiced. And until that is accomplished, my work has not been done. And so, aloha. This is Joel.